Thank you. Human evolution. Bear with me. Around 1.8 million years ago, depending on which Wikipedia page you're viewing, Homo erectus was alive and well in Africa. And through luck, determination, and curiosity, our species has evolved to become what it has today and discover the wonders of our world. I've pulled a couple of those key dates out to share with you. 3000 BC and the construction of the pyramids, to the 15th century and Christopher Columbus discovering the New World, to 1915, Einstein giving us his theory of relativity, a framework to space and time that we know today. And of course, in 1969, those incredible minds at NASA putting a man on the moon. And finally, in 2003, Nick Lane trying to smoke a twig he found on the floor. Not quite Einstein, but... I was also a little bit worried about starting with human evolution because I didn't know if a lot of you would think I was going to make a monkey joke about his bald head. So, I promise I wouldn't do that on your wedding day. So, I'm with you. But it is a pleasure to be here today and to share some stories with you all that obviously I know that make the man that is here today. Buckle up. But first, the formalities. And Jen, you look absolutely stunning here.
Yeah.
I have to say that, but I do really mean it. It's also worth noting, Nick's actually always had a particular type of girl he's been interested in, and he's told us about this on numerous occasions over the past. They need to have two big assets. A kind heart, and a sense of humour, both of which you have in abundance. To the bridesmaids, all of you here today, you look spectacular. Back to the main event. Now, I've known Nick for quite some time. We first met playing rugby up at Tavistock Rugby Club, and some great memories, but it's also the first time I saw his ruthless side. And in a tight game against a tough opponent, he would quite often run up to me in the middle of the pitch and whisper, "It's time for psycho mode." And for the next 30 seconds, he was actually this close to actually tackling someone. And when I say this close, I actually mean this close. But he made it through unscathed, and I'm happy he's here today. I also just want to reassure close family here today, I'm not going to make any awkward stories out about his other long-term girlfriends. Because there aren't any. There's none. There's no material to work on. But that's also not to say he wouldn't pitch in with some advice for me when it came to pulling the ladies. And on one weekend, in a bar down in Newquay, he was a real gentleman and showed me this strategy in person. Finishing off his favourite Alcopop, Reef, he said to me, "Just give him a little nudge. It's a conversation starter." Yeah. He eyed up his prey, a fine young lady, I must say. She's probably just enjoying a quiet drink on a Friday night. But unawares to the girls, there's a large figure now approaching behind them. It's also worth noting Nick weighed 17 stone at this point. on a diet of cheesecake and steak. He held an intimidating demeanour. Naturally, as he approached the girls, the nudge went wrong, and a short, sharp elbow landed to the side of the girl's head. We made a swift exit. This was also on the same night I woke at 4 a.m. to find Nick shining his phone light at the 10th floor we were sleeping in, shouting that he was under attack by burrowing moles.
That was true.
Maybe he'd been smoking those twigs again. But he is, of course, not just Newquay, he's a well-travelled man, and I've been on a few trips with him. In particular, one of those to Miami, Florida.
That's a nice one, yeah.
Yeah. And one afternoon, in search of food, I went to the local KFC with Nick. And obviously, Nick's not one to find himself flustered, confused, in the foreign setting, with the foreign language in Miami, Florida. So he made his way to the counter and promptly ordered. Now, what he'd meant to order was the Colonel burger, the guy, the beard, he's on all the advertising. What he actually requested was a Colonel burger. That was met by a surprise response, and once again, we made a swift exit. But one of my favourite trips with Nick was one of our first, with all of our group of friends here, and that was our first lads' holiday to Cavos. Yeah, and there was another story that I was going to share today, but I think it's a little bit tasteless considering the occasion. All I will say is, Jen, don't ever wash your face with a towel you uses.
Well put.
But I thought to say that on our first night, we didn't also have some laughs. And as we went down the Cavos bar strip, Nick was instantly approached by a fine-looking young lady who asked him if he wanted a drink at the bar. You bet he did. Half his hair fell out of the speed he got to that. Now, unfortunately for Nick, he didn't realise it's actually the job of the local promoters to bring in as many groups as possible to drink at their bar. Now, the only issue here is that actually proved a real jester's trick to Nick, because he fell for that same line every single night. Now, one of the other reasons I really get on well with Nick is I do see a different side to him, and this might come as a bit of a shock to you all, but he does consider himself a bit of a gangster. The West Country's answer to Tony Soprano. As evidenced by his request in his college yearbook for the quote, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." His picture. This was also at the same time he decided to rename his fists to Mystery and Abyss. Silence, please, silence. But this gangster theme actually continued. As Nick, and I'm sure any of his friends will say the same, he has been known to pull a pretend drive-by by using his hand, Mystery and Abyss, as pretend guns. Now, there was one day where I was driving by and I could see Nick pulling out into the main road in his car. I knew he hadn't seen me. I couldn't believe my luck. It was payback time. I also really wanted to get him back, because often, if you ever pretended to shoot him, he'd say he had a protective shield up that deflected all the bullets. So it was the perfect opportunity.
This is deep.
As I went round the roundabout, I knew I was going to see him at any moment. I had to lock and load. One hand on the steering wheel, I was ready. Finger on the trigger. To my shocked horror, he emerged in the distance. One arm looped around his shoulder, holding what I can only describe as an improvised bazooka. It was mayhem. If you're wondering how we must have been pretty young. Just think, I passed my driving test when I was 25. He recently went away on his stag do, and I'm a firm believer that what happens on the stag stays on the stag, and I think that's the case today. But what I will say is, when you're 2/3 of the way through that trip on an arduous train journey, and the groom is holding the seat in front of him like a life support and utters the words, "My mental health has been affected," you can feel fairly confident it's been a successful trip. Okay. On a more serious note, I just want to say Nick has been a great friend to me over the years, and I consider him more than just a friend, but really a brother. When you have someone as kind and helpful as Nick in your life, you can naturally feel a bit worried that that kind nature will be taken advantage of, and I know in our friendship that's never been the case. Bristol, Birmingham, Essex, Kent, London, just a few of the locations I've forced him to drive me for free. I know I can speak for him, he never wants that money back, and he'll never get it.
All in Mum's car as well.
I probably paid.
You did.
You're welcome, Greg.
Okay, but for on a more serious note, for anyone who doesn't know Nick, he really is that nice guy everyone talks about, but it wouldn't be right for me to stand here today without saying the real reason why that is, and that's obviously his mother and father, Helen and David. it's a real testament to you both that you managed to temper that bold side of it through the psycho mode days today. So I want to thank you both. I also want to just quell any of those rumours that the only reason I'm talking about Alan and David is because there's a chance they might be renting another large family holiday villa. That is not the case at all. If it did happen, I would be interested. But no. August is a good month for me. You might also see that there's been a little note passed around to each table today, and that's just for anyone who knows it's a Grand National tomorrow, and I thought it would be a nice little gift to everyone to say there's actually a ticket for each horse. For a horse, not each horse. I've got that much money. And so, for anyone who's joining Nick and Jenny at the town hall tomorrow, and your horse wins, maybe you'll buy the rest of your table a drink. But Nick, I don't want you to feel left out. So I got you a little present as well.
Towel.
Picked up this little guy. No, you smoking it all at once. Not on your wedding day. So I'm going to keep it here, but later, mentalist. We'll go busy on this one, do you worry about that? Okay, but that really is near the end. To Nick and Jen, I've known you both since that night you exchanged numbers at that awful house party at mine. And since then, I've seen you eat yourself into food comas to say a few things. I just want to say together, you're funny, quirky, a little bit weird, but most importantly, happy together. And I wish you both a wonderful life together. Can everyone here please raise a glass for the bride?
Please stand.
To Mr. and Mrs. Lane.
Mr. Lane.
Yeah.